Monday Night Lights, Monday Night Lights, Monday Night Lights. Let's talk about what's been going on at Viking Ice Arena. You've never seen a league so exciting and tough and fast. It simply must be discussed on an equally exciting and tough podcast. What's it called? Monday Night Lights. Yeah. Monday Night Lights. Monday Night Lights. What's been going down on the ice? Who are the leaders? Who are the failures? The Ducks, the Tigers, the Nordiques, the Whalers, the Seals, the Americans, the North Stars. Who's gonna stall? Who will go far and earn the keg? Who's gonna earn the keg? We'll find out in time. Give us a holler on the whoop line.
The Monday Night Lights podcast is back. Brian Piercy along with Troy Otto, the returning Troy Otto, and Mr. Dave Sips. How you doing?
Let's see, is the mic on or am I coming in here?
Try to get a little bit closer. You might have a switch you have to click on it. You might have flipped it off.
Jesus Christ.
Technical
What a
difficulties
great
all
start.
over again.
What a great start to the Sips era. God.
Well, Mr. Troy Otto, how are you doing?
Before we came on the air, I was like, I don't know how this Sips is going to be in real life. You know, is it going to be like Slack or whatever?
There we go.
There we go.
Hey.
Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome, Sippity Doodah, to the well.
Right. Welcome to the well. Yeah, first time.
But yeah, so Mr. Troy Otto, your triumphant return. Mr. Hedis apparently just woke up from a nap, so he's not able to make it today. But, you know, we're off to a pretty rough start, but maybe we can do a little bit better. As always, give us a call on the Whoop line, 714-75-WHOOP. Email the show at podcast@mnlhl.com. Follow and subscribe on Twitch. I just hit my month 4. So other people who have subscribed, they're probably coming up pretty soon on that stuff. So, you know, if you have, go ahead and do that. So, yeah, so let's get right down to it. Pick'em right now. We have a 2-horse race in first right now. We have Dylan and Gio. Dave P's kind of coming up at third with 11 points, and then Manny and Proctor at 10.5 points. If you want to check out all the standings, go to pick'em.mnlhl.com. So pretty good race. Troy, I know you're doing it. The Sips, I think you're doing it. So hasn't been as easy this year, I think, as past years.
Well, I mean, unless you're Doug Milson, you know, if no coincidence that the players at top are also on, you know, teams with winning records, it's like, I'm not going to, you know, I fall in the category. There's no chance. I don't care if we're 0-27. I'm not going to pick against the North Stars. So I've actually done pretty well. The North Stars can't fucking win. So that's kind of hurting not only the standings, and you're not eligible for the half-point bonus, but yeah, I was happy last night. I made the switch to the Whalers late, so I went 2-1, and I, you know, obviously just lost the North Stars game, but
Yeah.
a lot of hockey left.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask, so has Dave P been picking against himself, or is he just, like, far and away the best here? Because the Whalers aren't.
Dave P has
actually
picked,
doing too good.
you know, Dylan's in first place. Gio's in first place.
Yeah,
Gio has picked against the Nordiques once or twice. Doug Milson, I think this was the first week he actually picked the Nordiques to win. Besides that, I don't think there's been a Whaler who's picked against the Whalers. So for, as far as Dave P goes, he's been
spot
straight
on
fire.
outside
No,
because the
narrow.
Whalers are
It's
like
been pretty rare that people have been picking against their own team. Mainly, there's been a couple Nordiques. Not sure why. I think Doug's thing is, you know, if we win, it's better. It's just pick 'em. But if we lose, I get a point and pick 'em. So, you know, it's a win-win situation for him.
I understand the rationale. I won't do it, but I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, so we really don't have any news, rumors, any main topics as we go along. As always, if you're interested in joining the show, give me a shout out. You know, Sips joined us now. I know Dave P, he's looking to kind of come back in. Joey Brennan possibly. So lots of people. If you want in, just give me a holler. We'll put you in. We had Woods last week. That was nice as well. But I think let's kind of move on to our main thing. Last night's games. So the first game of the evening was the Americans 5, the North Stars 3. Troy, as being part of this game, why don't you give us your initial rundown of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought we were going to let the victor here, Sipperoni, go first. If you want to, you got to take a swing at it, Sips, from the Americans' perspective, and then your injury perspective. Fill us all in.
I mean, Americans' perspective, we just had a ridiculously good line one that's just impossible to stop. I mean, we had already Proctor and Antioch is just a ridiculous duo to get, especially with our D and how good our D is, but just adding the general to that mix just from an offensive standpoint is just almost not fair. And even Wood hopped up there for a little bit when general was tired, so it was just nonstop, ridiculous talent and, just too tough to stop. They got their goals, and we only needed one just to kind of finish the job. So
yeah, I'm showing that just for a few things. It looks like for the Americans, we had AJ Powers out, Edge out, and Sam Mackey out. As you said, the general did fill in. Matt Lepudre filled in, and Wilkie. Matt Lepudre has been playing some really good hockey as well. My scoring summary, it looks like Proctor had the first one, Antioch the second one, Proctor another one, Woods had a goal. North Stars kind of came back with 2 in a row with a Suits and a Cunningham goal, followed by Bin on the Americans, and then Cunningham to make it the 5-3 final. So, Troy, kind of give us your synopsis of this game.
Yeah, so I do give the Americans credit. Like, they didn't, their subs are good, but they didn't go, like, insanely sub up like they have in the past. Like, Bin was in for Star. I mean, that's fair. Matt Lepudre was in for Edge. I mean, that's pretty fair. The only thing that was different was that with AJ being out and picking up the general, that kind of spices things up. But again, the big upgrade for the Americans is just the Wilkie for Sam Mackey, because Wilkie, we've talked about this before, but by being able to play a serviceable defense with your 10th round pick, that allows you to put McCracken. So McCracken was basically Sam Mackey, because when Sam Mackey's back, I'm assuming it's going to be Proctor, Antioch, and Sam Mackey. And so General's able to just basically float around and do nothing. And then once he gets the puck, you can't get it away from him. And then you had Ben, just a different player than Star, but Ben, Proctor, Antioch, General, they all know how to play hockey. So they were just a formidable, duo. And then the second line, they held their own, but it was really just that chasing around that top line.
Now, I was going to say the Americans were up 4-0, and the North Stars started coming back and scored 2 in a row. On the American side of things, was there any nerves starting there? Was there any like, oh no, don't get into this thing, or what was the attitude on the American side?
I think it was just fine. Actually, Simonelli kind of was tempering us in first intermission because Woods was kind of getting going. We were kind of getting going. Ooh, this is nice. We kind of got it locked up already, and we had Pellet on the bench. He was like, he's like, I can leave because he was going to maybe sub in for me. So he was, he was walking out. I was like, you can stay. He's like, you got this. Woods is like, we got this. And Simonelli's like, hold on, it's first intermission here. So, and as soon as the second started, I think you guys scored right away. So it was kind of just like, all right, well, that's what we get for talking. But
I was expecting, and I'm glad it didn't come down to this, but I was just waiting for it to be like 4-3 heading into the third period. And then Sips is like, I'm out of here. And then Pellet, who's already dressed, is just going to like completely fresh and play the third period. So I'm very happy that didn't happen.
Now, the North Stars, they didn't seem to give up. I mean, being down 4-0 early has got to be a crushing blow, but you had to like that your team fought back the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that was a silver. It's weird, eventually you need to get wins. Like there's no moral victories, but I was very ecstatic. I mean, we were down 4-0. You could have just folded it up and just get blown out, but we didn't give up. And then we got it to 4-2. We had them on their heels. And, the Bin goal was just a real backbreaker. He just snuck in from the point. I don't know who hit him from the corner, probably Proctor or Antioch, and a one-timer 5-2. But then even then, we got a goal early in the third to make it 5-3. 10 minutes left, and then we pulled the goalie, had some heat, so we just couldn't finish it off. But I was very happy with the flow of the game. It's like we weren't getting completely dominated. It's like Proctor scored the first goal. It's just a typical Proctor. Like he leaks out. You give him a half a step, breakaway, goal. Antioch had for anyone who saw it, it's just a Joe Pavelski level tip. The shot from the point, it's going 5 feet wide of the net. He sticks his stick out, deflects it in, boom, 2-0. Proctor just gets another one on the third. The Gangster Wood one was like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's four.
I got to say this about Woods. He was in here last week. We kind of know he's a little bit crazy in a good way, of course. We got the twins over there on that second line. But I didn't even see who scored it, but just from his body language, he kind of gave like a little shimmy afterwards. I knew that he scored that goal.
It was nice, too.
Yeah, and it was we were talking about them on the way in too. It's like from my perspective as a forward, like we didn't even do anything wrong. It's like they came in, it was kind of a harmless 2-on-2, and our D definitely. If we had to do it over again, our D, which we've done a couple times, it's like cave like back into the goalie's lap. It's like at some point you got to challenge a shot, and then he finished it, and boom. But that was really just like you're on the bench and it's just like holy shit, we're down 4-0. We haven't even blinked, but but we came back. The definite highlight for the North Stars going forward is that Darren scored 2, because that's been a big talking point. We need production out of Darren. So it was really nice to get him going, for him to score 2 goals. He's feeling a little bit better about himself.
Was it the stick?
I tell you what, it was a real nice snipe. It was compliments of Sips. It's like Suit scored to make it 4-1, and then Sips, he hasn't been playing for a while, so he dug his head down in the ice, and I saw him going back to the point. He hit me with it, and then I kind of went wide. I sprung Cunningham in on a breakaway on J-Flow, and it was a top titties bar down ting. So the stick had something to do with it.
Well, I'll say, and I love Cunningham. He came over in that trade to the Seals, so we got special. He's got a special place there with me. But I will say it's kind of like people get all hype with football week to week. Like Michigan's down, then they play Rutgers, they look good, and everyone's all excited. Oh man, the offense finally clicking, they look great. It's like, all right, like temper these expectations here a little bit, because let's keep in mind, Cunningham had a huge game, but he was matched up to me a lot of the night, and I could not move out there, right? So, he's got the speed to just dance around even third, fourth rounders, and
I'll say this though, one of the things about Cunningham, and he's my cousin, is even saying going against you, he's had opportunities in the past where he's had breakaways or open shots, things like that. And one of the things about him that people have talked about is he hasn't been able to finish. So no matter who he's against on those lines, just from the opportunities he's had in the past for finishing these 2 today, I think that is a positive going forward for the North Stars.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Sips. It's like overreaction, it's like this and that. So not expecting, D-Kun to come score 30 and outpace Proctor, but it was just nice. And you could kind of see he scored that first one, your confidence is up, then he scores a second one, then he had like the green light, he was firing all night, so you could just see it a little pep in his step. So now will that carry over week to week? I don't know, but it was nice. You could just see on him, like kind of like it feels good to get the monkey off your back to get that first one. The first one's the hardest.
Well, and Deacon's kind of an underrated guy, because he's one of those guys that will contribute a lot without even scoring much. So he's, he delivers great value even when he's not scoring, which kind of gets overlooked and underappreciated. But, obviously yesterday he was using that scoring touch and looking nice. But that's kind of the North Stars problem, overall. I think most people would agree on. You got a lot of guys that can play. They're great players, but you don't have that, even Antioch's not our number one, but he's just a, stone cold sniper lighting it up. That's what he does. You guys kind of need that extra,
There's no doubt about it, but we scored 3 goals against J-Flow and a great. I was not unhappy with the result. Like if you would have told me coming in that we're going to get 3 on J-Flow, I'm not saying that we get the win, but maybe at least into overtime, I would have taken it. So I'm, call me naive or a homer, but I don't feel that negative about that game. So we'll see. But we got to fucking get some wins. We're in dead last.
Hey, there's still a lot of games left. Sips, this was your first game back. How are you feeling last night?
Not too good. I think my original timeline was about Christmas time, early 2020, and I thought maybe I could expedite that a little, but I think the initial timeline was more on target. I'm probably a good 2-3 months out before I'll be effective.
Let me ask you this. you didn't do any further damage by playing last night, did you?
No, I kind of had it just wrapped up, and that's the one thing about hockey. Like if I was a tennis player, I'd be done for the season. I'd be out, 6 months minimum. Like there's no way. But that boot is almost like a full cast you're wearing there. Like it goes up high, it kind of shuts down the flex, and so I just had it tight and wrapped and taped, and it's kind of just like a peg out there, which kind of was okay in the beginning, but then so I wanted to keep that torn ligament from moving around, and so it just locked it up, and it kind of kept any further damage there. But then after first intermission, it started the tightness started wearing on the bone, and then I was like, oh, Pellet, get back over here.
Now, how much of you playing last night had to do with your bet with Hedis?
It played in only because I didn't really have a set date. Like I didn't know kind of when I was gonna give it a go. So I know I had a couple weeks ago, I was like a preseason Red Wings game going on a wheelchair rather than walk around. So that wasn't even too long ago. And then I went to a Spartan game, whatever Indiana was, and was able to walk successfully. And then at a doctor's appointment, right a few days before. So it all kind of fell into place. All right, I got to test it out. I got to go see the doctor. Then the North Star's coming in. So I was like, all right, I gotta give it a go and see how it works. So
You're telling me you went to a Michigan State game getting pushed around in a wheelchair only a couple weeks ago?
No. The Red Wing game.
Oh, Red Wings game.
And it was just for parking. I got it hopped out, and I was functional walking around. I just didn't want to walk a mile to the stadium. So then I tried walking, for a mile or two at the Spartan game, and that worked out. So it's like, all right, let's try hockey. So it was kind of the natural progression combined with this is kind of the time to come back. So
well, I think we're all glad you didn't hurt yourself any further. Be smart about it. Come back when you're actually healthy, or at least closer to healthy, and nobody wants to see you out. A few notes coming out of the game. Obviously, no goals for you on the first round of the bet. Will you be able to make round two?
I think. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm kind of targeting maybe after the bye, coming back in for the Nordiques game. I think we get after the bye. So this game we had the lead. I was just like, all right, let's not blow the game. I already probably cost us at least one of them with Cunningham and you actually catching up and stripping me and sending it down. So I just wanted to not get lit up and blow the game was my main focus.
Yeah. My sources say that the Americans have already planned to bring Wilkie in for you next week. Mm-hmm. So they already have a sub in there. You're considered to be back on the IR. And I'm also hearing Sam Mackey is targeting a return on Monday. Mm-hmm. So, we've talked about what those lineups will be like if Mackey returns. Wilkie probably back at defense. So that'll be a real interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, last night, again, with Wilkie subbing for Smoky, they actually played Wilkie on the first line, which I was a little surprised by. But it makes sense in hindsight because he was so well protected because the rest of the lineup was so good. But if they're going to try to do the Wilkie versus Matt Taylor next week for the big 2-2 Matt Taylor showdown, that might not be so smart. But we'll see what happens.
Well, you never know. Proctor gets motivated, and when Suits was on the ice, it looked like Proctor actually decided to play a little bit of defense. So that was surprising. He looked like a kid in the candy store every time they had a little time where they were, touching a little bit, moving the puck tuck. You see him. Proctor would stop, turn around, smile at him. I thought I saw some hearts coming out of his
definitely a little bromance.
His jersey. So it was sweet and cute.
Little bromance there.
But let's move on to the next game of the night. It would be the Whalers 3. The Tigers 2 for
I do want to just jump in.
Oh, sure.
It's this wasn't as bad as Jersey Gate, but it's pretty fucking close. Like the Sips 15-minute dissertation of his injury. I'm guessing we lost a couple of viewers there, but hopefully they're still with us so we can get into the next game.
We know Sips being on here. We know he's going to go into a couple little rants. I didn't think that was bad at all, but for the Whalers, Turnbull's still out. We had Alan Z come in. The Tigers, they were missing Matt Taylor, Myers, and Joe Ellis. Looks like Pfister, Pellet, and Maff came in for the scoring. The Whalers had a goal from Trent, Piercy, and Dave P. And the Tigers had one from Skillman and Pfister. So me being in this game, the Whalers, we got up early. We were up 3-0. I thought we were playing pretty well. I wouldn't say we were controlling the game the whole time, but I felt like we were outplaying them, or the slight edge was at least going towards us. The way that we've been scoring lately is, I think if they would have scored first, it would have been in our head, but we got that first goal early. Another one, it made us start feeling good. I think there was the point, Skillman did have a nice goal, followed up by Pfister. You kind of felt like he was trying to take control and put the game on his back, and he scored. I think there was a little bit of like, what the hell? But we did hold him off there. But yeah, it was good to get the win. Dave, I know Troy was over on the other side. Did you get to watch any of this game from the sidelines?
I was kind of bouncing back and forth between the two. I definitely caught the end there with all the penalties and questionable calls, blatant calls, missed calls. All of it kind of went down in the final few minutes, and Pfister really fired up down there at the last few minutes for a team that he's not even on. That was
I heard in the Labatt party deck that Pfister was welcome to the MNL with a Trent kind of rough up. And that's just what I didn't see it, but I just told him like, hey, that's welcome to the league. Trent does it every once in a while. So
I think
I don't know, man. There's a couple those refs. I'm not sure the one ref's name. I know Antioch was reffing, plus the other gentleman. I think it was the older one.
Yeah.
He has some pretty soft calls. There was one Peso late that I had no idea what happened. Nobody fell, no nothing. Maybe I missed it.
Is that what put you guys down 5-on-3?
Yes.
Yeah. So Serta had mentioned that, and I wasn't there. I didn't see it, but normally to put someone down 5-on-3, it's got to be pretty egregious. And that's not in the rule book, but that's just kind of like an unwritten rule. If a team's already on a power play, they don't put you down 5-on-3 unless it's pretty obvious.
And
but
I didn't even
Serta was
see.
upset about that one.
Yeah, I didn't even see what it was. I thought maybe I was like, oh, Peso being Peso. I thought he had earned it with his mouth. I was like, all right, he's chirping the ref as he's going off. I was like, that's Peso right there.
I still don't know what the penalty was, and it was one of those things where I think Peso even got beat. Like the guy beat him, passed him with the puck, and then the ref still called something on it. So that was a big shock. I said, lucky we were able to hold it off. I did have 2 points on the night.
I wasn't gonna let you brag. I was actually gonna do a transition there, so you didn't have to unilaterally brag. But I was gonna say Piercy had a goal on the night. Walk us through it. Let's hear. I didn't, and I still haven't gotten the full rendition. So I do want to hear it.
I got to be honest. This is my first goal ever as a defenseman, and it's my first goal this is like. Season 1, I had a couple goals as a forward. Season 2, Season 3, no goals at all.
Yep.
I only had 1 point last year, so I got to brag a little bit about it. But
the floor is yours. I want to hear all about it.
It wasn't that big of a deal. It was kind of a garbage goal.
Maff did think it was offside, so walk us through it.
That wasn't even close to offsides. I think Maff was thinking of another play, which I know what he was thinking of, but they were different plays. But anyways, the puck was coming along the boards. Charles was kind of out at the blue line defending me. Of course, he didn't skate, and I just kind of skated up, grabbed the puck, and I was going towards the net.
Lazy Maki blood.
He did say, "You're welcome, Piercy." Goal by the Red Wings
2-1
as well. But he did say, "You're welcome" after the game because he knew he was being lazy. But that's besides the point. And I think on the podcast, he did ask me to rip on him a little bit more. So you're welcome as well, Charles. But Dave P was in the middle. He's calling for the puck. I threw it across the center. It hit off a couple people and kind of just came back to me, and it was just a garbage, and I just shot it at the net, and it went in. So, a goal's a goal. It doesn't matter how you get it. It's on the score sheet.
You're on the score sheet. I'll tell you, it's like when you get that stat sheet comes out, and it's just horrible when you're sitting there at 0. So just to get a goal and looks like you got an assist too, and then you just feel a little bit better about yourself. So.
I think obviously you get excited when you get some points. I looked at last year's stat sheet, and me and Whoop both only had 1 assist apiece, and because of penalty minutes, we were actually outside the ranking of the number of players in the league because of subs. So that's definitely not the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah, and I'm sure plenty of people are watching, but Wings go up 2-1. It's fucking Bertuzzi, Mantha, and Larkin again. They are just on. This time it's Larkin with the goal. They've just been fun to watch. It's amazing. I don't know how long they can keep it up, but man, they look good.
Well, that line one, I was saying even before before the season started, it's like this line one was red hot, but after that, like those those 4-3-12 guys, we just have no.
Getting Athanasiou back, not Red Wings talk live, but getting Athanasiou back really helps because he's got that speed. So that Athanasiou, Hirose, Glendening, I can see that being a productive line. But lines 3 and 4, it's like these guys. I mean, we got Della Rose, Earn. Abdelkader's just a shell of himself. I mean, it's pretty, but it's fun while it lasts. We'll see how long they can keep it up.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay for the record. I don't want them to win these games because when all of a sudden we have the 7th or 8th pick in the draft, we're all going to be complaining when we really want, a top 3 pick. So, you might think these picks are fun or these wins are early or fun early, but they're going to cost us in the end.
There could also be the conspiracy theory, though. It's like the NHL, it could be like we just missed the playoffs. We have that one lottery ball in there, and then we win because they do have the lottery. On the Wings, it would be nothing better than the Wings coming back. And so I don't follow the draft, but they're supposed to be like this generational player, like number 1 overall, like another McDavid. So, who knows? We'll see.
Well, that's the problem. We don't even have a
Google
McDavid.
Patrick Ewing rigged NBA lottery, like the cold envelope. There's all sorts of conspiracy theories. But
anyways, a few more notes on this game. The Whalers did move Weaver up to forward. I felt like that was a nice mix for us as he does prefer forward, and as being a coach, I think he knows positioning pretty well, and he was in a lot of good spots that gave him some good opportunities. So I think that'll help us going on the long run.
Old man Ite on D.
Yeah, he played defense. He looked good back there. Once Turnbull, Alan Z, we had him back at defense, kind of the Seals playbook, but I think once Turnbull comes back, I think that'll really help solidify our defensive core. Tigers, obviously, they were missing Matt Taylor. That's a big hurt to them. Good amount of subs. It's really hard to say how that team is. Their jersey was a little bit brighter than I was expecting, a little bit more Steelers oriented. So I don't know if I was a fan of that. I think I was wrong on the rankings. The Seals, for the records, I saw those in person, and they do look better than I thought. I thought they were black when they're actually a nice dark green.
Yeah. The Weaver thing he's just much better at forward. I think I played with him as a defenseman in the spring, and he has the ability to do it. I think sometimes he just gets bored back there too, so then they'll try to do too much and turn it over, and sometimes he gets he's just much better up at the wing playing with. Did they keep the Serta, Dave P, and then Weaver, and then Trent and Peso with Venandi, or did they mix it up? Yeah, so Weaver playing with those guys both hustle, and then he can kind of hang out back post, and that's kind of Weaver's role.
Yeah. Last game of the night, it was the Ducks 1, the Nordiques 3. Looks like the Ducks were missing Bronny and had Marvin come in. On the Nordique side, we had Gio, Panny, and Drago out. Looks like Rattler, Troy, and Whoop came in. So looks like for the scoring, we had Fem with the first goal, followed by Sugar to tie it up, and then a Kimmel and a Pete, which was an empty netter. Troy, you were a sub in on this game, so why don't you give us an overview of it?
Yeah, so the sub situation for the Nordiques was interesting because I'm in for Panny, and then Drago bailed late, which so initially I was going to play defense, and then Drago bailed, and they brought in Whoop, which put me up to forward. So I think I'm better than Drago up at forward. But then you get the Whoop, on defense. So it was kind of like a risk reward type thing. And Whoop definitely, had his scary moments where, Dougie Fresh plays it pretty cool, but Dougie was paired with him, and his body language was just kind of like, Jesus fucking Christ, Whoop, can you just move a little bit, But they survived. And then the trade-off for that is I thought the top lines were pretty evenly matched, Pete and Kimmel versus the Sugar and Bin line. But that second line, it was me, Rattler, and Andy Fem versus Turtle, Bauer, and Jim Ellis. And it was just, we swarmed them the entire game, really, whenever we were up against them. And I really felt like we should have done more damage than we did. And not because of me. It's like Rattler and Andy Fem are just so fast and tenacious. And I felt Turtle was just frustrated. He couldn't do anything. So we really pinned them deep. And then we finally got one. Then Sugar scored, made it even. Kimmel scored in a breakaway in the third period, a really nice snipe, and then Pete got the empty netter. So it was a lot closer than I felt it should have been on the scoreboard. But the Nordiques were clearly the better team, in my opinion. So they got the well-earned point. And then Pete was happy to get his empty netter, get on the stat sheet. Him and Proctor smelled blood. Little side note, I forgot. The Americans game is 5-3. There's an empty net with like 3 seconds left, and Proctor, he wanted to score so bad, and General held on to the puck in the corner like a gentleman, but Proctor was so pissed. Like Proctor and Pete, they just smell that empty netter and they want to get the stats.
Sips, what did you see from this game on the time that you kind of went back and forth?
Well, I didn't catch a lot. I know one of the goals, I was kind of just talking, didn't even catch. I wasn't even looking intensely enough, but I know, and I thought Hedis was going to be here. He was adamant that one of the plays was offsides, one of the ones that went in. So I don't know if that was a big controversy.
That was the Sugar goal, and I didn't notice it at live speed, but they claim, and I can't remember exactly how it went. I think there was Brennan got tangled up with him at the blue line, and they definitely thought that he was offsides. But in the end, it didn't matter because the Nordiques got the point. After the game, the Ducks, I heard some talking. They play us next week. But, again, that Sugar, Busta, Bin line is formidable. And then they got Rubel and the D. It's like they are very good. But that second line just doesn't have much ammo. So they were talking about perhaps playing Turtle with Bin, which I can see that. They'd probably be pretty smart. And then Sugar, maybe will be able to just carry that second line all by himself. So I can see the risk reward with that. I don't know if Turtle and Bin would be as effective against some top line teams.
We could play with Busta and Bauer on a line too, and that would be pretty.
But I mean, I understand the concept because it would give them. It would give Sugar could carry a line by himself. So that might be an interesting kind of twist because that second line just. And again, it's matchup specific. Maybe against some teams they'll be okay, but that was just the Andy Fem and Rattler, it was just a real.
They're both
matchup.
High motor, fast guys, and that's tough. I mean, that top line, Busta, he's for being a bender, he can score. He's got to be in the right place, but he does. He's not the fastest guy in the world. His endurance is a little bit low, so that hurts him. But if he can get in that slot and you give him the puck, he can finish, and a lot of benders can't do that. So it's a positive, and it makes that line tough. But like you said, we've talked about this a lot. But their defense is good. With the Rubels, you have Gibson playing well. Yeah. Normally you have Bronny, but Marvin filled in as well. So they have that back end that you hope helps them out. But they also Ryan Z was back for the first game this time as well. And how did he look?
I thought Ryan Z looked for his first. I mean, this guy. I think this, unless he went to a Sticks and Pucks or something, this is his first time playing since surgery, which took place in the Stanley Keg Finals, whenever that is, February or March. He only gave up 2 goals. The third one was an empty netter. He looked a little bit sluggish, which is to be expected, which is kind of like his rebound control and stuff like that. But for not playing for that long and having a surgically repaired knee, I thought it was really impressive.
Definitely. Well, and he fell too, because what's the guy got to do? He just sets the MNL record for best GAA ever in history, and he gets drafted 5th?
But by the way, I just blinked. I thought the Red Wings had gone up 2-1. They must have called the goal off, and now the Anaheim's up 3-1. It's like,
don't make me turn the TV off on you.
Jeez. Well, I know some of our live followers are watching, so it's hockey related, but Jesus Christ. Anyway.
But yeah, Ryan Z, I think, obviously he had a great season last year. I think the fear was,
right?
Yeah, but I think it's the fear of the unknown. He had surgery. He didn't know exactly when he was going to be back. So I think that's why he fell. And if he can get, if he was playing on a hurt knee all last year or most of last year, he could actually have a better year this year.
The terrible part about it is, and again, I didn't talk to him, so I can't, this is secondhand information. But I don't know if it was Gibb that was telling me, but basically his knee still doesn't feel good, which sucks. So you go under the knife, you're out for 7 months. Well, Sips knows, and it's and I guess he says that it just doesn't feel good. It's not not bad, but it's just a real bummer because when you go under the knife, you kind of want to, if you're going to take that time period off, you want to come back feeling better. So I'm ecstatic that he still keeps coming out, because I think of it, if I was 40 years old, multiple knee surgeries, it's like I think I might just be like, fuck it at some point. I don't want to give him any ideas.
That's very scary because you don't know. It's like, do I have to strengthen it back up so I can play? Is it going to get better? Is this the best it's ever going to be again? I know when I had I had some shoulder issues and all that, and I had to go to the doctor, get a cortisone shot, everything like that. It was scary, especially like say going to the gym, like getting back in. It's like before I actually went to the doctor, I was trying to see if it would heal, and it was just like, am I going to do something dumb and my shoulder's just going to tear something?
Yeah. And not to minimize that, but that's your fucking shoulder for to be 40 years old and have knee problems and play goalie, which I can from experience can tell. I mean, you're up and down. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. So I'm pleasantly surprised at how well he did, and hopefully he gets better.
Well, it's rough. You get to an age too where, like, all growing up and playing when you're a young guy, it's you get hurt. You're gonna get better, bounce back, and you reach a certain age. You're like, I might never get better again. This way.
That's exactly why I proposed a rule for the expansion, which we didn't follow. Is I said no one under the age of 30 should be allowed in, but it's probably not realistic. So
it's I will say when you hit for it, like you take a puck, and when you're in your 20s or whatever, you get a little bruise. 2 or 3 days go by, that bruise is gone. It's like when you're 40, it's like, fuck, these bruises just hang around forever.
Oh, I took a slap shot off the hip on Friday night, and it was one of those ones that went off the hip, and it like shot a pain down my leg, and then it didn't hurt walking or anything, and all of a sudden Monday I touched my hip, and it was just like, oh, that really hurts, and it still hurts today. So yeah, I mean, I'm a couple months away from 40, so it happens. So
yeah, Weaver was actually, giving some good tips. I guess he's been through a whole lot. Like
he's got a bum hip or something. So it's like
he said like two bum hips and like replaced.
I know. I have to check myself because I tend. Weaver was a North Star, and I love the guy, but I used to get on him for some lack of hustle at times, and then I'm like, the dude's got 2 replaced hips, so it's like,
working hard enough.
In another 5 years, we'll have the Legends MNL league that'll expand to a 4-team original 4 again. That's all 40 and up league.
No, and he's a nice guy too. He actually reached out on Slack, and we don't even talk on Slack, but he was given some. Talking about some stuff he went to, reached out, nice message, and I didn't write him back.
What a jerk. What a jerk. Another thing, Cone, by the way, I mean, he's a leader in the goals against average, but Cone's just solid, So the Deeks, my takeaway from the Deeks, it's like, I really don't think they're like, have enough consistent firepower to like be my top team, but at the same token, they are just like, they are the most consistent, repeatable. It's like you got Pete and Kimmel with Wright, and then you got Gio and Andy Fem with Drago, and then you got your 4 kind of good defensemen, not great defensemen. So I just feel like they're just destined to be, in the middle of the pack. I think they're clearly a playoff team, and once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. But I just, even as good as like we outplayed these guys, like, and Pete scores in this league. Pete's a goal scorer, but I don't know if they're going to have that consistent high-end firepower. But we'll see. But they're just a solid team. Cone's a solid goalie.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be a tough out. That's for sure.
Yeah, when I look at that team, it feels like their defense should be beatable to get some goals on. But like you said, Cone's been playing great, and I feel like they actually play good team defense. Their forwards have been back checking a lot, makes it a pain, and nobody's really taking advantage of them too bad. So
who is Sukas playing D for them?
They got Sukas, Dougie, and Brennan.
2 Canadians and Payne,
and then Panny will be there. Yeah.
I mean, for not doing that as their primary focus, that's a solid defense.
I was also I told Panny, if you give me the call, I guarantee a win. So I was getting a little bit nervous there at times because it was a little bit closer, but I did. It was one noteworthy play for myself is at the very end of the game, Sugar was going, and I hustled my ass off, and I back-checked and hounded him the entire length of the ice to the extent where I had Pete cheering me on from the bench.
You really fought through that auto lazy blood, didn't you?
I did. But the end of the story was, despite that, he still fucking got past me. I chased him the whole fucking length of the ice, and he still did. But the Deeks held on. Nice win for the Deeks. Got to hear Kesha in the locker room. This is going to be a bad take, but I'm like the Kesha in the locker room. I know it's iconic. It goes with the Nordiques, but I feel like Kesha was kind of an old thing. I feel like they need to come up with a new song because it's kind of, how many times can you hear it before, and then, but it is funny, like Justin Wright is still doing his thump, thump, like it's the first time he's heard it, But whereas I'm just kind of like,
you just don't get good team tradition. The only tradition the North Stars have is losing in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is what it is. As long as they works for them. But I'm just, are we gonna be doing Kesha in 15 years? I don't know.
Hey, you never know. But the OFP power rankings real quick. Let's go through these. We won't go team by team, but I think we'll kind of just say if there's anything we really disagree with. So right now it looks like for number 1 on that spot, we have the Seals, followed by the Americans, Nordiques 3, Whalers 4, Tigers 5, followed by a tie with the Ducks and the North Stars.
Yeah, let me give my little 2-minute blurb, and then you guys tell me what you think. 1 and 2, I don't think there's any debate. It's Seals or Americans. I don't think there's a case for anybody else.
It's hard with Seals coming off the bye, too.
Yes.
It's hard to...
Yeah, so you guys can... But I don't think there's much debate between those top 2 teams, right? And then it's like Nordiques... I thought maybe the Tigers, but then I was like, shit, they lost 2 in a row, so they had to drop down. Nordiques, Whalers, you can have some disparity there, and then at the bottom 2. But what do you think between Seals or Americans for the top spot?
Well, first off, like power rankings just kind of like strange because I feel like everyone's got a different metric. Like, what is it? Like, who won yesterday? Is it just the standings? Yeah. Is it the ELO bot? Like,
we throw the records out. Who do you think are the best teams outside of the records?
Well, and so that's kind of what
weighted towards the previous week.
But I kind of view it like, who would I not want to face now? Like right now. So and that can be. That's not necessarily indicative of just the record straight up. Like, I mean, Drew Brees is out for the Saints. Like, they might lose a few games, but when he comes back, I don't want to face that squad.
Well, it's your world. Tell us.
Yeah,
you got the mic.
I mean, so my
Who's your
biggest,
number 1?
The number one.
North Stars?
I was trying to disagree, and you're finding common ground here. Okay, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. No, definitely got to be Seals or Americans. I mean, I went out and was hanging out with Dylan a little bit after. So you're talking to him, and I'm on the Americans. I should be biased, but talking to Dylan, you're like, oh yeah, Seals number 1, absolutely.
Six just ordered a Seals hat on Amazon.com.
They got it locked up. But then I'm like, oh wait a minute. Like my team's still better.
It's tough. I'm going to agree with you on this one, Troy. I think the Americans are a better team, but they've had so many subs. It's not that I'm claiming they've subbed up or that's the thing. It's just we haven't actually really got to see what their team looks like.
Seals come in with a little more swagger too. Yeah. Seals are just like they had all those unknowns and they're just coming in with confidence and big talkers and new guys.
They do have the head-to-head win too, and I think that weighs in to some degree.
Exactly, and I haven't actually seen the Seals play this year. It just happens to be that I'm always playing a game when they're playing a game, so I haven't got to see them yet, but. I've seen Pfister play a couple times right now for being a new guy in that second position. Seems like it's a great pick, and I can just imagine Shawnee. He has that time where he just starts power skating and he'll go by people. I think on Wednesday, he essentially went through 2 guys, kind of pushed them over, and went through for a goal. Like you put those 2 together, and that's going to be a pain in the ass. And I'm not sure if the general's on that line with them or someone else, but that can be even Pellet. Pellet's been a steal. He's going to be good. You put that in there, that's going to be a beast of a line. So their team is very solid just because they've consistently been there and not having those subs. I got to give it to them. My other thing, I think that I'm looking at these rankings, I still got to put the North Stars at the bottom just because of the points.
Who Troy put at the bottom?
I put a tie.
He did a tie.
I would have, for the record, if we didn't play next week, I would have put us at 7 and the Ducks at 6. But since we play each other next week, it's like let's just see what happens. Real quick on the Americans though too, it's like if they come out next week with Sam Mackey and they beat the Tigers with a Matt Taylor, then I might revisit. Even if the Seals win, I might consider jumping the Americans. But you're right on the Shawnee and Pfister. I think that was 2 power rankings ago. It's like Shawnee finally, he hasn't had his he's after that season 1.
He hasn't had his Proctor.
Exactly, because Proctor was Batman and Shawnee was Robin, and ever since season 1, Shawnee has been thrust into Batman role, and Shawnee's just as great as he is. He's not a natural scorer like Proctor. Like he's a hard worker. So Pfister can be kind of the scorer, and then Shawnee just work, and then he does plenty of scoring too. But I think the statistics show that Pfister's been the one scoring most of the goals, Shawnee with most of the assists. So they're great, Batman and Robin.
And Pfister's going to be just an in-demand sub with how low he went too,
Sure.
and showing out. I think I forgot to mention this with the Whalers game. I think he went in that final few minutes. He not only had a goal, which was a nice goal in desperation time, but he drew 2 penalties down the final stretch. So a goal, and that's not a stat. People talk about penalties drawn, but a goal and 2 penalties drawn in the final stretch is almost one.
He's a little guy. That was the other thing too with the Proctor. It's like he just pisses me off to play against because he's so, he's a sniper. He's a good player. He does all this, and then on top of it, it's like. He's almost like the Michael Jordan. Like he's got this reputation. Like in our league, the puck. There's a play on the puck. Marvin's there. Proctor jumps up in the air. Okay, and then of course it results in him falling on the ice, and then we get a penalty, and it's just like fucking A. It's like to Pfister, he's a little guy too, so it's this drawing penalties deal. But just one more reason to hate playing against Proctor.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious if the Tigers gave a call to Shawnee before Pfister.
I don't think they. If it happened, it happened outside of the executive office because they went to Pfister.
That's interesting because Shawnee is eligible for that sub position.
Correct, but I think he's replacing Matt Taylor, and Matt Taylor is the Tigers' offense, and Pfister's more of a scorer with his dangling. So I can see it, but again, it just goes to show how great of a value pick Pfister was.
Yeah, my last thing on the power rankings is. Even though I'm going to put the North Stars last, I do think the North Stars are the more talented team over the Ducks, but they just have to prove it right now.
Yeah.
And I think, that'll be a nice matchup. It sounds like Shawnee, according to the chat from Drager, was unavailable, so who knows what would have happened if he was available or not. So let's go to the standings real quick.
So the one thing I disagree with on the power rankings was the Tigers, and that was kind of maybe my overreaction drop. Yes, the Tigers did lose. Yes, maybe they did 2 straight, but I'm not gonna overreact to that too much.
Who are you putting?
You're saying they're too low?
Who are they jumping over?
Well, I'm saying with Matt Taylor out and the way, I expected the Whalers to win that matchup. With me thinking the Tigers have the better team, just because they were desperate. They were in a battle with the North Stars for the bottom. They needed that win. Taylor's out. That's their main guy.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like, do I think long term are the Tigers maybe a better team than the Whalers or the Nordiques? Yes, but the Whalers just beat them, so it's kind of hard to put the Tigers ahead of them after they just lost to them. And the Nordiques are, the Tigers have just lost 2 in a row. And the Nordiques have, I think, won 2 in a row. So it's like it was kind of hard to justify, putting them ahead. But I don't disagree with you. One other quick comment about this big North Stars. Ducks showdown, just the problem with being a father. So my son, this is the biggest game. I can't wait to play the Ducks. It's like do or die, and my son's in a hockey tournament, and it's President's Day on Monday. So he's in this hockey tournament. So instead of it being at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the tournament's Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's one of these things that if my son does well, they will play on Monday. And it's in Boston, by the way. So I will. So if my son does well, I miss the game. If my son does bad, I make the game. So it's very conflicting.
Well, I would say that
same for Graham as well.
That's why if you need to stay there,
sub up.
I can't pay or see. By rule, I got to go. It's a bye-week rule, so I already have Brennan lined up.
I think we have. No, that's a 9:00 game. I think we have Brennan lined up for that. I was gonna say, if not. I might be the top scoring defenseman in the league as of right now.
There you go.
So, anybody who's out there looking for a defenseman in the 7th round, 8th round range, give me a call.
Yeah, there has been a lot of discussion on that bye week rule, and it does put you in a bind at times. But it's worked for the most part, because when you're sitting there at home, if you want to play, it's like when we're on a bye week, I know I'm going to be itching to play. So I'm glad that they, everything else aside, I'm glad that they have to take me and they can't, it doesn't have to be like a choose.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that one. I personally would like next year to maybe not allow any sub-ups at all. But that's a whole nother subject. Let's move on to the standings real quick. Just for a few notes as well. If you want to see the standings or any of these stats, you can go to MNLHL.com. There should be a section that links you to the Google Sheets for all this information. Also, if you go to youtube.mnlhl.com, you can see the actual show from a video standpoint. We have standings, points leaders, all that going through the feed. So Americans, Golden Seals, and the Nordiques are all in first place right now with 9 points. The Nordiques do have 5 games played, while the other 2 have 4. We have the Tigers at 6 points, Whalers at 5 points, the Ducks at 4 points. All those teams have played 4 games, with the North Stars at the bottom right now with 3 points, and they've played 5 games as well.
That's what makes next week just enormous for us. Like, it's big for the Ducks too, but it's just enormous for us because if we win, we jump the Ducks. We have 6 points, but they still have that game in hand, so they can, in theory, catch us with the win the next week. If we lose, now the Ducks have 7 points. We only have 3, plus they have the game in hand, and it's like, fuck. So it's like this really is you don't want to do a must-win 7 weeks into the season, but fuck,
Yes.
6 weeks into the season.
So being the GM here right now and also being the last place team, at what point do you start to panic and start to make a move with being in last place? Are you trying to wait till everybody gets those even amount of teams before you even start thinking about something like that, or is it starting to set in as of now?
Yeah, so there's a couple layers to this. So first of all, I would definitely be I was definitely in a little bit of panic mode after the first 2 weeks because we were 0-2 and we had just played pretty shitty. Then, or maybe even the third week, but then we lost to the Seals. Like, we started to play better. So it's not just the record. It's like kind of like how we're playing. So I'm not in full blown panic mode yet because I think like we're playing pretty decent and I kind of feel like we're going to turn the corner. If we were playing shitty and we had a horrible record, I would definitely be in panic mode. But the second part of that is, it's hard to make a trade in this league because when you do have a shitty record, the players on your team don't have a lot of trade value. So it's like, unless you, I think last year the Americans, they were desperate, they were bad, and I think Manny and Aniak's we're going to fucking do something. So they just made a trade to make a trade, and so that's what I'm trying to avoid doing. There were a couple, and then we have the whole Maff thing with Ty, and he wants to be traded. And I told Maff, it's like, look, you're not really doing me much favors here, but when you tell the whole fucking world that you want to be traded,
then everybody's like, ooh, yeah, we can get him cheap.
Exactly. So then here come the shit offers. So it was funny because after we beat the Whalers, actually had some talk, like Maff played a good game, so there's some talks going on there. I'm not going to name any particular players.
Were you trying to trade for me?
But, I'm not going to name any players. But then the Whalers win. So now Serta and Trent. So now Serta and Trent are feeling good. So they're not itching. So it takes a lot. You need panic. You need timing. It's got to be the right deal. So a lot of factors going on with that.
Well, I'm kind of worried about the opposite happening. Is the Americans kind of were in panic mode, so they had to gamble last year. Now they are the opposite, so they don't have to gamble. So I'm like, oh gosh, well, what am I? I'm that X factor variable. Maybe can, maybe higher ceiling to overachieve, or maybe bottom out and underachieve. Not too much of a safe thing or a sure thing, and is that what the Americans do?
Then you have positional matches too, so there's just it's everyone likes to do the trades. They're fun, but it's tough. They're tough to pull off. They really are.
No,
yeah,
I like
my
team,
sources
but I'm like,
say
that
chatter between GMs is relatively low as of now.
Yeah.
Sounds like you tried to trade for me. Of course,
yep.
I mean, I would want me as well, so I don't blame you there.
Yeah, but but again, at some point, and I think too, everyone kind of wants to see their team kind of the full rotation through. You don't want to do a knee jerk. It's not like the spring where it doesn't fucking matter. You can just throw a trade out there because it's not that big of a deal. It's like in the fall, it's a big deal. So you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
Now let's flip this around. Your team was once good before.
Yes.
Now,
back in the glory days.
How much of that are you looking to pounce on teams that are bad that you think are going to be desperate versus staying with your team?
Exactly, and that's what I said. It takes two to right now. It's like I'm the one that should be in panic mode but I'm not gonna just give away my players. And like the offers that I received for MAF were horrible, and it's like, I'm not going to trade. I'm not going to trade, because the thing is, you also have an obligation to, as much as I'd like to, seriously here, it's like, I don't want anyone to be on the team that doesn't want to be on the team, and I'd like to honor MAF's request, but I also have an obligation to the 9 other guys in the room not to ruin their season by just trading them.
Charles Mackey for MAF.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we'll see. That's a fluid situation.
Does Charles want to be there though?
Oh, of course not.
Boom! Hot take!
No. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard anything bad out of the locker room. I think I more than half assumed that the MAF stuff was kind of just a joke on him and Ty's part. I mean, both those guys, I think, are pretty strong in what they believe in, and I think it's slack. Keep your mouth shut. Don't talk about it. If you want to bitch on Facebook, just mute each other so you never see that bullshit.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It's like Ty. I mean, there's a little bit of truth behind every joke, So I do think, that MAF, he obviously takes politics, seriously. And at the draft, it was like legitimate concern, like that Ty was going to talk politics and was going to piss him off. So Ty was literally like very good for a very long time about just not doing it, and then he posted that one thing, and it triggered MAF, and I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm like, do we have to, can't we just play hockey and enjoy all this? And it's like, but it's not the first time in my life that my brothers have put me in a bad situation.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really want anybody in Slack preaching about that stuff.
No,
really, from either side. I don't
exactly.
I don't care what you think either way. Like, if I'm having a one-on-one conversation, we can talk like an adults, but don't throw it in a general room because you're gonna piss off someone in there. So just keep that stuff to yourself and let's play some hockey and have a good time.
If the politics, no matter what, you're gonna piss off at a minimum 40% of the whatever. If you post one thing, you're gonna piss off this many people. You post another thing, you're gonna piss off this many. So it's like,
I didn't see. I was busy during a lot of that going down, but I don't know if what Ty posted you would consider preaching.
There's so many offensive things that Ty post. It could be one of many things. Who knows? I think the possibilities are endless there.
Yeah. Well, is that we what hell's out of the league? Is that?
But yeah, I don't know.
You knew it was bad today when that was like the thing is with Ty and Hale. Lots of weird shit, but just don't make it political. But it's bad when Ty posts something and I can't remember who, but someone was calling. I think it was Charles. It's like, Hale, please post something stupid to change the subject. And it is what it is.
Oh, speaking of mute too. Now, did you guys have to? I was looking on the YouTube video. Did you guys mute your mics when Sam's message was coming on? Because it looked like you were dying. And
yes, I pressed the mute button because I think it was Cone and Cam.
So you're not going to be able to hear the voicemail.
They were crying essentially when that was going down.
And Cone and Cam
it doesn't take much to get Cam giggling. I will say that.
And that was I love too about the calls. I love that, and I was surprised nothing this week because it's like it seems every week we have all these callers to the podcast, but all of them are just Sam Hockey, just in a different voice. So it's like a new caller. We have
the classic Troy one if they win and he's not on the show.
Yeah, that was good.
We don't want to rehash this, but I put it on Slack, and then Piercy says, if you want my opinion, leave a voicemail. So then I leave a voicemail folling his instruction,
but people
and then he gets all mad at me.
That was the highlight. Everyone loved that, and the thing too is like the voicemail was great, and and then Piercy addressed it, and the way too. It wasn't a response. It was like. Oh, it was so like beautifully abrasive. It was just like exfoliating my skin. I could feel. I love this. I love this.
It was a mixture of like he was hurt and then pissed. It was a little bit of all the emotions, wrapped up. But it is what it is. So it could have went I could have just kind of continued on and the abrasive thing, but instead I opted for like the hug.
The hug.
I didn't see a hug. Then we went.
Listeners, there was no. I've been here the whole time. I walked in with you. They did
The
not.
slack,
They did
the
not
slack hug.
No,
The slack
the hug emoji.
The
Okay,
slack
okay.
hug. The
Okay.
slack hug.
For the record, one, I was not truly pissed off about that. Maybe irritated is a word. But two, for the record, Troy Otto is a poor sport no matter what happens. He's a poor sport in victory, and he's a poor sport in defeat. No matter what the result is, he is a bad person.
Sips, you're here, Sips. Did I say one bad? Did I not give credit to the Americans?
Good here. This is what. No matter what the result is,
you're the
Troy Otto is a bad
Exactly,
person.
that's
These
right.
are the sound bites that I want. These are the sound bites that live on beyond the podcast.
You're right here, Sips. Did I say anything negative about the Americans win? Gave them credit. Didn't sub up. You know.
You love to rub it into certain people,
Well,
though.
that's
sub up.
true. That's part of the
Didn't
fun.
sub up because this time we really because I couldn't even skate out there and that's I was thinking about that yesterday too. How
Oh, this is offsides, by the way. That's why that goal got called back.
unless it's sugar and so
I will say, but that's like to me, that's what makes Monday Night Lights so special. It's like when you win, you know, like there's nothing better than winning and beating Dave P and Pace. So I said it.
Oh,
but then
yeah.
when you lose, like you
everyone.
know that you got to go out to
Oh,
the party deck
I love it
and
too.
you got to face the
But
music.
this isn't even a Troy thing. This is right here is an Otto thing, where the Ottos think they're all funny and charming, and they're like, "Ooh, Piercy, you fucked up there. You suck." Blah 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 blah. But they do something like that, and you talk a little bit of shit to them, and they're just like, "Oh man, why are you so mean?"
Well, I did have to watch this because I know when I was a GM, Briley was gonna be out, and that was just became obvious. So I was just trying to play it straight, play it fair. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try and trade for Cone. So I kind of like, and rather than trade for Cone, I knew I had a good team, so I loaded up like all my Chris Taylor was playing a D. I moved him to forward. I just loaded up my forwards and just shelled them. And then a couple games later, I think I don't know, he subbed in and gave up like 9. So I just jumped on Slack, just like trashing them, like like and. Meanwhile, what I don't think Cone realizes, I'm on the back channel, like hitting a McShannon, like, "Hey, come on, let's make a trade, let's get Cone." So but Cone didn't realize like it was actually a compliment, like I actually wanted him. So from his perspective, it's like, dude, like I thought we were buds, we were K-Fox, you're dogging me in the Slack channel, and
Everyone gets a little sensitive. That's just human nature.
no, and it was like it was, I was like, no, that was the plan, that was the game, and that's one of the things Troy and the North Stars does. For the last couple years, he's been jumping on the Slack channel like dogging Sips, and I was like, oh, maybe he probably wants me on the team with all these criticisms. I was like, okay, a trade's probably in the works, and then nothing. I'm like, nothing happens.
I did try to trade for Sips at one point, one season. I even tried to trade for Piercy one time a couple years ago.
I remember you called me and you wanted me to.
Criticism is a hate.
Yeah, he missed it, Jans. He missed out.
You wanted me to profess my love to the North Stars before a trade happened. I refused. Real quick before we wrap this up, looks like we had a voicemail without me presetting it up. I'm going to try to play it without it preset up how I normally do.
Is this while we are on the air?
Oh gosh.
I think so. So I didn't even know it came in. Let's see what happens.
Hey, this is Jeremy. First time, long time. I just want to ask a pretty simple question to the boys in the room when we have them. Love the podcast. Just want to talk to you guys a little bit. Our boy Whoop, every single day, talks about cocky Seals, cocky Whalers, cocky North Stars, cocky Deeks, cocky Tigers. Isn't the Whoop the cockiest of them all? I'll take my answer offline. Bye, guys. Thanks.
So I'm just gonna assume that was I'm joking, but that was Sam Maki calling in as Jeremy Drager.
Pretty good impression.
Good Drager impression.
No, that was actually Drager.
Actually, let me say before you guys address that, one of the great things that we do like best Otto, and we got Troy's here doing the podcast right now. I mean, one of the founding guys of the league, does all this work, puts more time in than anyone except for maybe a very small few, if that. And then Ty goes and volunteers to ref. He gives up his spot very generously over the spring season, refs for free the entire time, very generous. And then Whoop comes on and just and everyone's like, best out of whoop right there. And that's all it takes. It's not a...
Welcome to Troy's life.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think the answer to that question is cocky is probably Whoop. Arrogant may be me, but cocky, there's nothing more cocky than Whoop, when he's doing his Whoop things.
It's hard to argue, especially first year, we were flying high. Second year, he makes the finals again. Last year kind of put him down in his place a little bit, but
oh yeah,
we're back, baby.
They're back.
There's no question about it.
The
baby, we're back. He's got a new little jingle every week, but that's part that as frustrating as the Whoop is, as your brother, but that's part of his charm,
Part of it is there you have that cockiness from Whoop that he can't back up, so it's even more charming because he can't back it up.
Yes, and that goes beyond just hockey. It's like I've been knowing him my whole life. It's like if Whoop and I play golf head to head, straight up. I've told this story before.
He's gonna take off his shoes.
But if we played 50 times, I would beat him 48 times. But those 2 times that he fucking beats you, you'll never hear the fucking end of it. And that's just the Whoop.
Sounds familiar. Kind of sounds like last week in a voicemail, I remember.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to say next week, it's kind of weird. I feel like every week the game of the week is focusing on the bottom because that playoff spot is so important to have. So I think that Ducks North Stars game is going to be top of the line there. It'll be interesting to see a Matt Taylor Proctor matchup, but
I hope Matt Taylor shows because I think he's missed half their games. I think they've played 4. I think he's been here for 2, but that's the matchup everybody wants to see.
Are they 4-2?
Yeah, so Nordiques are on the bye. Lions are on Monday night, so that was a nice little break for them.
The Lions are on this Monday night?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Be curious. My sources are saying Mr. Cunningham's doubtful.
Nah, he's hot. He might have been doubtful, but coming off of a 2-goal night, he's going to keep the momentum going.
We'll see about that, but as always, give us a call at 714-75-WHOOP. Email the show at podcast@MNLHL.com and follow and subscribe to us on Twitch. YouTube channel is youtube.mnlhl.com. Sips, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Oh, you sound really believable.
He got better as the show went on.
I came on tired.
I just asked him if he had a good time, and he's like, I don't know.
Drove in from Livonia. That's dedication.
That's dedication. Apparently, it's his latest week in the next couple of weeks, though.
Latest week.
Troy, I'd like to thank you for coming back on.
It felt like I was coming back home, So not to blow the point too much, but most of it is just I love doing the show. I really do. But it's just hard when you have 4 kids and we play Monday night, play Friday night, and then it's like, oh, honey, I'm out of here for the podcast on Tuesday nights. It's like there is at some point where she's like, let's just get divorced. So, so I'm going to try realistically, once or twice a month. And I think that's better for the show. Get some new blood on there.
Realistically, we have the 4 microphones. Obviously, I have to be here. Depending how many people are, how much I talk or not, it's dependent. But you, Hedis, it's nice to get some people. Cone was talking about maybe trying to do some more. Dave P showed interest. If we can get a kind of that rotation going minimum, it's always nice to have one extra guy that's been on the podcast a couple of times to make sure things are going good. But
I do have a topic for my next time on, which is rate the guest podcast members, because I think some
to make people even more nervous when they get
most have been. I think for the most part, everyone does well. It's not like anyone just comes on here and bombs, but I think some are better than others, and I have my opinions. But we'll save that for.
So I got a real quick. I'm gonna give you my bottom answer. I don't want anybody else to give the answer. It's my boy. He's a sniper out there. He scored a goal this week. He's one of the most underrated players in the game. Dave P kind of bombed his first time on. He's Mr. Professional Twitch guy on the microphone. He kept turning his head. You could barely hear him. He's normally bombastic, Mr. Go guy, and he was a little bit timid there.
I think he was. I think you're accurate. but he got better, kind of like Sips
Yeah,
too.
you gotta
It's like,
warm up into it. You walk in and
a little more conversational, but he got better as it went on. But he was definitely like a little like kind of a mouse sitting behind the thing.
Well,
whatever.
and there's no teleprompter. I don't even have the agenda. I feel like O'Reilly, just do it live, and it's like, all right, I don't know, I don't got any words on the screen, and it's just like, okay, talking about some stuff, And,
Well, we're not necessarily a professional operation here, Sips. And also, I have a feeling these last like 20 minutes or so on like Spotify, I can see the thing of where people stop. There's going to be a big drop at this point, probably 20 minutes
It's
ago.
been the best minute of the best 20 minutes of the show, buddy.
People should play it and rewind, like.
Oh yeah, and plus,
Would-
I think
would
I've heard
probably
before.
rewind.
Cans lady listens to the show. I think Mrs. Busta.
If Mrs.
listens to
Busta's
them.
listen, I hope she's listening. That was the other thing too. There's no fucking way I was gonna make Busta like accurate and my first time come back after a North Stars win. So definitely wasn't gonna prove that to be true.
Oh, and Turtle said, or on the podcast, you said Turtle's
Sammy-
wife listened,
Sammy's supposed
but
to
only
come
for like.
on.
But you said she listened to like 15 minutes, and I was like, what was that 15 minutes? Because the first 5 minutes is like dead air, and then the song, and then it was
Well,
like
when you download the podcast, the first 5 minutes is
LLC was
dead
the
air.
next 5 minutes, and that's like the 15. So I was like, oh gosh, what does she think of this?
I don't know if she
podcast? That was
stopped
just
listening
That was just
af-
a mess
Yeah.
of a beautiful mess, actually, and more than her. I want to know what Stephanie, Sam's wife, thinks about. We need her take. We need her to call in and weigh in. On
I
some
know
of those
Mrs.
voice notes.
Sugar. I know Mrs. Sugar used to be a listener of the show.
Yeah, there was talks about trying to get her on. She's only like a mile away from here.
Yeah, bring her on. It'll be fun. But all
We'll,
right.
we'll provide a bottle of wine for her. Turtle can stay home and watch the children. It's all good. But I think we're done here. But thanks again, Mr. Sips, for coming in. And I think everybody loves having Troy back.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, so for
Go
the
North
podcast,
Stars.
we are out of here.